Welcome to the week ahead. We're doing this live and largely because there's a lot to unpack over the next few days, which is following after the Prime Minister the Finance Minister, pardon me, Tengku Zafrul, unveiled the largest spending plan ever with an allocation of 332.1 billion ringgit for budget 2022. Finance Minister Tengku Datuk Sri Zafrul Abdul Aziz said that the government would continue to provide an expansionary budget considering the ever-growing need of every Malaysian.
Tahun hadapan, tumpuan kita semestinya adalah untuk memulih semula setiap segmen sosioekonomi negara. Usaha untuk membina daya tahan turut digerakkan bagi mengukuhkan keupayaan perniagaan dan sistem kesihatan dalam mendepani cabaran mendatang.
Of the total, 233.5 billion ringgit would be for operating expenditure, 75.6 billion ringgit for development expenditure, and 23 billion ringgit for the COVID-19 fund. The largest allocation goes to the Education Ministry with 52.6 billion ringgit, while the Health Ministry gets the second largest allocation at 32.4 billion ringgit.
And of course, this whole week, we're going to be seeing a lot of debate pertaining to the budget. Some areas of concern would be on the allocation for the Ministry of Health. The head of SERI, Dr. Hilmi, calculated that it would be coming to about 2.2% of the total GDP when it comes to budget allocated for the Health Ministry. This is still well below the recommended amount of money that is to be spent for health ministries if you benchmark against other OECD countries, which normally tops about 3.5% thereof. So there's a lot of debate whether or not the amount given to the health ministry is still enough, at least in Malaysia. That's going to be one area of concern. Another area of concern would be on the revenue that is to be generated to finance this budget. If you remember, or if you recall, on Friday, Tengku Zafrul argued that about 33% of the money coming in from income tax is to be financed from the budget 2022. This is, of course, in tandem with the normal amount that is to be raised from revenue coming in from income tax. But the question now is, can the income tax revenue meet this target for 2022, considering that a lot of Malaysians did lose their job? But notwithstanding that, another area of concern would be on the purchase of the 88 million doses of COVID-19 vaccine, and whether or not this is enough to provide third doses for all the adults in the country, including that of children aged 12 and above. The initiative falls under Budget 2022's allocation of an additional 4 billion ringgit to fight COVID-19, of which 2 billion ringgit is for vaccination program and another 2 billion ringgit is for related health facilities.
One of the aspects in the budget 2022 in this 4 billion would be for the government hospitals to buy services from the private hospitals. We are happy that private hospitals are able to contribute and help the patients in the government so that the waiting period to receive treatment can be shortened.
Tengku Zafrul added that in the next year, the government will seek to provide tax relief for individuals and tax deductions for employers over costs related to self-funded booster doses. It also plans to procure antiviral medicines to fight COVID-19 and other diseases.
And another further conversation that needs to be had is on all the other aspects that the budget 2022 is allocating. Remember, this budget is meant to gear up for the recovery of Malaysia heading towards an endemicity aspect of COVID-19. So we've done something quite simple and quite nice for you guys, which is on wrapping up the key takeaways from the budget, particularly when we talk about the government extending the reduction of the statutory contribution rates for EPF until June next year.
To help ease cash flow of Malaysians impacted by lockdowns, EPF has agreed for the contribution rates to stay at 9%. This, according to Tengku Zafrul, will provide 2 billion ringgit to the people. 600,000 new job opportunities will be created under the Jamin Kerja initiative. Employers who recruit those who are not actively working with a monthly salary of 1,500 ringgit and above will enjoy 20% and 30% in salary incentives. The government will expand the sugar tax. Excise duty will be imposed on malt, cocoa and chocolate beverages in order to compel Malaysians towards a healthier lifestyle. The government also plans to impose excise duty on liquid or gel products containing nicotine used for e-cigarettes and vapes. Sales tax exemption for passenger vehicles assembled in Malaysia will be extended till June next year. Imported vehicles will also be given a 50% discount in sales tax. To spur the property segment, there will be no real property gains tax or RPGT for properties sold after the 6th year. The government will impose a one-off special tax for high-income companies earning 100 million ringgit and more to increase funds for those affected by COVID-19. The tax will be 24% for the first 100 million ringgit and 33% for the rest above that. In a bid to empower women, all public listed companies will have to appoint at least one female board member by September next year. The government has also set aside 2 billion ringgit for employment of housewives, single mothers and unemployed women.
And because of this conversation that needs to be carried forward, we did speak with a lot of tax consultants. We spoke to some think tanks about how the budget was approached at. But it's important for us to harken back what the budget is really meant for. Because of this, we spoke to Taylor's University Associate Professor Dr. Hafizali Iqbal Hussein, who highlights the key priorities for the budget to explore on Malaysia's path to recovery. Here is our conversation with Dr. Hafizali.
It's important for the budget to focus on economic resilience, because the pandemic has highlighted several issues that need to be addressed. There needs to be enhancement of issues such as social protection, which act as stabilizers. We can also explore areas such as employment insurance for the self-employed, or I think that there's going to be a lot of a shift towards people working in the gig economy. So that's an area which social protection hasn't catered well to. Personally, what I would like to see is continuation of targeted handouts for the B40 group. I think that we're going to see a higher e-wallet payment, which I think this time it would be better off. We would be better off if it has to be spent within a stipulated time frame, so that we can see a very strong burst of consumption. And I think that what is important is that we expect to see higher personal tax relief in order to boost private consumption.
Dr. Hafizali supports the continuation of the wage subsidy program to help businesses reopen. Besides that, grants and other assistance are also welcomed initiatives.
And I think that the biggest thing is that if we have a reopening of the economy, there has to be grants to support this in a lot of different costs. Small companies, they want to reopen, get back into business. From the supply side of things, we're going to need to see support in terms of rehiring, putting up banners, or restarting their business. All of these are going to incur costs, and I think they would appreciate the assistance coming, and that would act as a very important aspect to jumpstart the economy.
Digitalization is also key, according to Dr. Hafizali, as the country gears up towards recovery during this endemic phase.
The most important step in terms of implementation has to be pushing forward the agenda for digitalization. I think once we start rolling out the shift to 5G, all economic sectors across the board are going to benefit tremendously from this, and I think that should be a priority for implementation.
Another element that we need to look forward to in the week ahead is, of course, talking about COP26, or the 2021 United Nations Climate Change Conference that is currently happening in Glasgow, Scotland, United Kingdom. And the conversation starts today on October 31st and runs all the way until November 12th. Some of the topics that will be debated there will definitely include how nations allocate their resources, particularly nationwide budget, towards the establishment of reduction of emissions, trying to achieve net zero carbon by 2050, and clear and concrete steps on allowing for the private sector to assist in the reduction of carbon emissions. Because of this, we did take a look into what the budget 2022 has to offer in relation to COP26 slash climate change conversation. And we do believe that in this budget, Malaysia is committed to improve the environment's resilience and water assets following an increased focus towards sustainability, not just in budget 2022, but of course in the 12th Malaysia Plan as well. Throughout the week, we spoke to a lot of factors and a lot of factions, but one area that we want to highlight for tonight is with the Association of Water and Energy Research Malaysia's Piara Pakaran, where the suggestions come about as some of the key areas that the government can look into, starting with achieving net zero carbon emissions and tackling pollutions.
Now, let's talk about moving towards net zero. Now, there's a lot of new technologies that's going to come on board. Our government has pledged that we're going to be reaching net zero by 2050. But I need to put a caveat here, basically, because a lot of these new technologies are also depending on resources. We need to do mining. There are also undersea mining being proposed for some of these chemicals. And you know, when you do mining, there's a lot of heavy metals that are going to come out. We're going to destroy sea. And we're also going to destroy the land. Because if we're going to solve climate change using toxic chemicals, then we're going to end up in a toxic world by 2050, which we need to solve in the longer run. And coming back to locally here, pollution is actually quite a serious issue. There's quite a lot of suggestions that we have put forward for the past 10 years, is in the 12th Malaysia Plan. So we need to look at how to tackle pollution using a more pragmatic way. Some of the solutions that are put forward, more like a loose connection, like integrated water resource management. I mean, this is a very loose connection. We can't get affirmative actions. What we need is legislative amendment. We need to go more stringent. We need to give knowledge to the local authorities. And through this, we can actually minimize pollution.
Piara Pakaran said it is time to get serious in tackling environmental issues by adopting data-backed solutions that can provide tangible results.
We were living in a utopian world, and we never saw the reality. We just gave, okay, I give you a lot of economic incentives. We want to grow this, we want to grow that. But does this growth into those areas are going to give us reliability? This is very important. Moving to 2050, we need reliable solutions. We can't just take things based on theoretical analysis and eventually take risk into our economic growth. This is quite a serious issue, and we have actually put up a memorandum on all these issues. We have already submitted to the members of cabinet. I hope they really look into this. And the coming budget, we really need to look at data and science to look at affirmative actions which will give us tangible results.
Speaking of which, this United Nations COP26 summit that is happening right now as we speak in Glasgow, Scotland, is billed as a make or break scenario for the globe, for the world. This is because the world really is eyeing COP26 for new pledges for climate action. UN Chief Guterres says there is a serious risk of failure coming in from the world leaders if they don't come together and decide for this. Current action is clearly not enough to avert future hothouse world. And of course, this COP26 is not easy to put together, largely because it was delayed a year because of the pandemic. But it aims to keep alive that whole idea of target a capping of global warming at 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, the limit scientists say would avoid its most destructive consequences. Earlier today, I was watching a YouTube video by The Economist that highlights a 3-degree world. And what does that mean when it comes to the world heating up to more than 3 degrees Celsius? It goes without saying that it wouldn't be absolutely great for anyone, from places that are hot becoming hotter, places that are near bodies of water, particularly those just 10 meters above sea levels currently. It will be inundated by rising sea levels, not to speak of the destruction of wildlife as well as insects. It's not going to look good if we don't apply are able to keep within that 1.5 degrees Celsius cap limit. And of course, if you look at pollution per capita, industrial nations still outstrip developing nations. And we can call China a developing nation as well, because China and India collectively per capita emit lesser pollution and lesser carbon compared to, say, for instance, the EU, the US, Australia. In fact, Australia is one of the highest or largest polluter per capita in the world. So there's a lot of conversations that need to be had, particularly amongst industrial and developed nations, because they are per capita the world's biggest polluters. If we don't cap it at their end, it's very difficult for them to preach to the rest of the world, particularly those in India and China and Southeast Asia, to keep to our limits. However, despite the bleak outlook, there are still some supporters of optimism in COP26. So I really hope that we can achieve that kind of pledges coming out from COP26 the moment we reach towards the end of the COP summit, which is going to be on November 12th. For now, we'll go for one short break. When we come back, we'll discuss a little bit on politics, particularly Malacca politics. Welcome back. This is The Week Ahead, broadcasting live from work from home. We're talking about the Malacca state election. All is not well with one side of the fence, which is between Bersatu and PAS. There's some rumors or argument between them, particularly on contesting in seats that are overlapping that with UMNO. Earlier this evening, Astro AWANI spoke to the lecturer from UM, Muhammad Taufik Yaakob, that the argument between Bersatu and PAS needs to be arriving very soon when it comes to allowing UMNO to contest in some of the seats, if not all of the seats. So that is a conversation that's continuously going to take place this week. Meanwhile, Pakatan Harapan component parties have come to a consensus that they will contest under the Pakatan Harapan flag. According to opposition leader Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim, of the 28 seats, PKR would field in 11 seats, Amanah will be fielding in 9, and DAP in 8 seats.
Seluruh kekuatan PH, DAP, Amanah dan Keadilan akan hanya menonjolkan logo Pakatan Harapan. Jadi kita berjuang atas satu logo, satu pendirian dan satu manifesto bagi peringkat negeri.
While the Malacca election will only see state seats being contested, Anwar said Pakatan has also decided on the seat allocation for parliamentary constituencies in the future, with PKR and Amanah contesting 2 each, while DAP gets 3.
Another area of contention would definitely be on the issue of how they plan to campaign. This is because the Health Minister, Khairi Jamaluddin, did say that it is quite impossible to see political parties campaigning face-to-face. But we've seen most political parties, if not all political parties, contesting in Malacca, already contravening the, order given by the Health Minister. But, that is an issue that will definitely be developing over the next few days as well. I just hope that the cases do not increase in the state of Malacca. But of course, everybody knows that I am only being optimistic when the situation will definitely persist or worsen over the next few weeks. One more short break. When we come back, we'll conclude with the story of COVID-19. Welcome back to The Week Ahead. One final area that we need to look at on what's happening in the next 7 days will be on Malaysian government procuring the Pfizer vaccine for the use of vaccination or inoculation of those aged between 5 to 12 years old. This is, of course, following the US FDA's survey or finding showing that the panel recommending the Pfizer vaccine to be used in children between those ages.
They will be carried out at 10 research locations involving 8 facilities under the Health Ministry, University Malaya and University Technology
Health
Mara.
Minister Khairi Jamaluddin said the ministry will also be looking at other vaccine options like from Sinovac. 62% of adolescents in Malaysia have been fully vaccinated, while 82.4% are partially vaccinated. Khairi also announced that new information on COVID-19 booster shots for recipients of the AstraZeneca vaccine will be released soon. He added that people with allergies and cannot take the mRNA vaccines may be offered Sinovac or AstraZeneca for their booster. Khairi, a 2-dose Sinovac recipient, tweeted a video of him receiving the Pfizer booster jab to assure the public that heterologous vaccinations, where different types of vaccines are administered to the same recipient, are safe.
That's all we have for you on the week ahead. My name is Ibrahim Sani. Have a good week ahead.